Hey everyone, here with another Marvel Legends review, and yeah, it's a long-awaited figure. It's the Deadpool and Wolverine figure here in Marvel Legends form. I think it's been a really long-awaited figure for collectors. As soon as we knew we were getting Logan in the classic yellow comic book look, but in the MCU, I think people were super hyped, and super hyped about getting it in action figure form. And yes. Okay, so we got him out of the box. I've kept him in this tray just so you can see it, this kind of backing tray, because it's really awesome. It's got some great artwork on here, this kind of graffiti style Deadpool artwork. I love the head pull down here. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. I think you could probably repurpose this into something else, like make something fun out of it, if you were happy to kind of cut up your the packaging or just use it for something else. But yeah, it's a really nice look. And yeah, here's the figure itself. So yeah, you've got the main figure, comes with the masthead fitted and with the clawed hands. It comes with an extra unmasked head, which looks really, really great, and two extra hands. We've got one fist and one kind of slightly open grasping hand as well. So yeah, we'll get him out of this bit of packaging and we'll have a closer look at the figure. Okay, so here he is out of the box in hand for the first time, and first impressions are, yeah, feels really, really solidly made. Surprisingly, I wouldn't say heavy, but yeah, it just feels like a solid figure. It doesn't really feel flimsy or anything like that. Just having a look through, the suit. I think these MCU kind of suits work really well for action figures because they kind of have this sort of modular sort of armor look to them. It just works well in action figure form because it works well with the sort of joins that you're going to get on an action figure. Whereas, those joins can maybe look a bit more jarring on kind of like a comic book figure. But yeah, for MCU style, it just works well here. So things like the ab crunches kind of works well with the lines on the suit and the joints on the arms and everything like that. It just really works well with the design. Taking a quick look over, we'll talk a bit more about the paint detailing later on. But yeah, the paint on my figure looks really, really clean and fresh, like really, really clean. I can't see a lot of obvious defects. I've got a tiny little bit on, I don't know if you can see, but just on this top line, it's a little bit faded. I won't say faded, but sort of less even application in that top line. But I mean, that's really nitpicking. I'm not going to see that there, but that side compared to that side, there's a little bit of a difference. But overall, I mean, the paint, I've not got any sort of smudges or like splodges anywhere. It looks really, really clean, actually. I will say though, of course, that actually a lot of this isn't paint. It's just, the yellow is like this yellow plastic. And I think, I could see some people not liking that too much. They may feel that this yellow plastic makes it look a little bit cheap and not very premium. I can totally see that. That's my kind of one reservation about the figure. Is there are times maybe you just look at the legs, there's a lot of yellow there, and you're like, does it just look a little bit cheap? But that's what it is. It's not a totally painted figure. It's mostly this sort of yellow plastic, but with the blue and some extra accents of yellow in various places and the black. But what is there is really, really clean. I'm pretty happy with the paintwork on this. Nice, bright, vivid colors, really clean lines. I think it looks good where there is paint. And actually, the detailing on the plastic, you see much more once you get the figure out of the box. There's this texturing over the suit, so this kind of like sort of armor effect, this like mottled kind of texture, which feels really nice to touch, and that's throughout the suit. And also you get, there's extra sort of detailing in like the legs, which you don't really kind of see when you first get out of the suit, get out of the box, but there is extra detailing kind of sculpted into the body. But yeah, I think, first feelings when you get them out is it feels well made, really nicely finished where there is paint. And yeah, I think he looks really great. But we're going to try posing him now, and then also try those additional hands and that extra head. Right, so here he is in a bit of an action pose, and first impressions in terms of posability are, pretty good, although the arms on mine were like super stiff, and actually the shoulder kind of, you try and rotate it and it sort of clicks around in like steps. It's super, super stiff. By comparison, the legs were fairly easy to pose, and actually that kind of kneecap, you can kind of sort of change it so that it either stays with kind of the thigh piece, or it's more aligned with the calf piece, or you can kind of have it in the middle, and I guess that's quite good actually. That like can help with the kind of sort of with it making it look like sort of quite a natural sort of position. But yeah, the in terms of posability, you've got the kind of standard Marvel Legends sort of joints. You've got a thigh swivel, you've got the ab crunch. Ab crunch I think is really important on Wolverine because you want him to be in that kind of that slightly hunched over sort of animalistic attack pose. And yeah, so I've got him slightly hunched over here in this position, just a little bit. And I think the ab crunch works well on this figure. Like I said before about the kind of the lines and the design, it works well. It doesn't look too jarring and too much like a really fake toy join. So that's good. But I think the main drawback in terms of posability with this figure is the shoulders, and that's because of the design. It's because of those shoulder pads. Like you can't really raise his arm up a whole lot higher than what I have his right arm in the position here where it is. You can kind of get it about halfway up, but you can't have it sort of coming overhead because those these shoulder pads are just going to be in the way. They don't rotate around. The arm can kind of rotate inside it, but yeah, so it is quite a constraint there. So I think some people may be a bit disappointed, like they can't maybe pose him in ways that they expected they maybe could. I think you still get good poses out of him, totally. I mean, this was, just a really quick, the first sort of pose I put him into. I think to try and pose him in more of a dynamic, kind of more crouch pose, and more kind of a running pose, you're gonna need a stand. A lot of the Marvel Legends figures, they do struggle with balance a little bit. This is by no means one of the worst. It's actually fine, and as you can see, he's staying up on this rotating little turntable fine without a stand, which is great. But I think if you wanted a more dynamic kind of pose, yeah, you need to have a stand. The neck joint as well is not like super flexible. Let's just take him off for a minute so you can see. So he can kind of, that's about as high as he can look up. I've got him sort of bent over a little bit. That's more of a natural kind of sort of looking straight forward pose, and then you can get him to about there. So not super kind of looking up or down really, not much there. But you can turn his head pretty much all the way around if you want. So that's fine, and he's got a little bit of a side to side. Well, not really, just a tiny little bit. But yeah, it's these shoulders are the tricky thing. So as you can see, that arm, that's kind of the range of motion on that arm. It's not going to come up any higher than that, which I think some people might be disappointed about. I don't think it's, you can do good Wolverine poses around it, and actually because the hands rotate at the kind of the wrist, you can do some, I feel like, quite good loads of different poses with the claws, because you can have them doing sort of overarm. But yeah, as you can see, it's really stiff trying to adjust that arm. But yeah, you can rotate it around so you can have him more sort of coming from underneath or more sort of overarm attack. So that's quite flexible, but yeah, the actual flexibility of that arm is really, really limited, which is a shame actually. I know that most recent Wolverine Secret Wars figure that's just come out has the butterfly joints, which I know some people really like because you can get very sort of comic-esque sort of poses out of that. I don't think the butterfly joints will look great on this figure because they do create a really big join in the chest area. So I think looks-wise, this is better, but that is actually pretty limited. You can kind of mainly just have his arms down by his side or a little bit out, a bit like that, but that's kind of about all you're gonna get. You'd have to be a bit more imaginative in terms of having a kind of straightforward attack. But yeah, not much more than that because of those shoulder pads, which yeah, that is a shame. And like I said, the arms are really stiff on this particular figure. Legs are fine. They feel much more sort of natural, and he's got a thigh swivel out, like I say, but then that does start to mess up the join of the design, which is often a problem with with some of the thigh swivels, as it just messes up the look. But yeah, overall, you know, it's pretty standard kind of Marvel Legends articulation, which is good for the most part. But yeah, the shoulders are the big challenge on this guy. Not as flexible as I guess a lot of people would like. While we have him up close, I thought I'd just talk about the head sculpt of the masthead that he comes, you know, fitted on the figure. I think overall it's a really cool sculpt. You know, from the side as well. I mean, it's almost like unbelievable that is a movie figure. I mean, it's just like it's comic book Wolverine, you know. So I mean, that's awesome that we got this in the MCU. But you know, one thing about it, I guess, if I was to nitpick, is I do feel like with a lot of the Marvel Legends figures, you know, for the movie figures, they've got to go off the kind of the concept art, because they're designing the figures before the final movie is out, you know. Sometimes they need a really long lead time on this stuff. So I think sometimes you do see figures that are designed around concept art, and I do wonder if this is the case with this figure as well, because even just like looking at the art on the box, like that's a really, really good match for that artwork. Like it's really spot on. It's like it's that in plastic form, right down to these kind of really pursed lips that he has. Let's just see if we can, you know. So he's got this really kind of tight-lipped kind of like look on his face, which overall, like I say, it's the picture on the box. But it's that kind of, you know, artwork or sort of CG mock-up of the suit. But yeah, I think, you know, it's really good. It's really detailed. Does it look loads like Hugh Jackman, like masked-wise? I'm not too sure. It kind of does. It's good. It's not as good as you know, some that they've done, and it's certainly not as good as the unmasked head, which we'll just have a look at in a minute. But I do wonder if it's because they were designing it around the concept art, which is the kind of stuff that you're seeing here. But in terms of that match, yeah, I mean, it's really, really good. And I do love the detail, you know, he's kind of got stubble going on. He's even got kind of, you can tell it's kind of like older Wolverine, you know, he's got sort of slight, almost like wrinkles around the mouth area. And it's, I think, you know, the cowl and the eyes look really, you know, looks really mean, and that sort of piercing stare, but with the white eyes. Yeah, it's a really good head sculpt, and I like the texturing and the detail on the kind of the wings and the mask and stuff like that. And overall, yeah, it's an awesome design. But I think that's the one sort of nitpicking thing, is it probably looks more like the concept art than perhaps it does the final, you know, Hugh Jackman in the movie. But yeah, total nitpicking there. But yeah, let's have a look at that other unmasked head, which is awesome. Okay, so here we are with the unmasked head on. It's pretty easy to pop the other head off and get this one on. I've certainly found others which are harder to do that with. And yeah, I mean, this is definitely the better of the two heads. It's, you know, what a great likeness. You know, I think Marvel Legends are really, you know, unbeaten in terms of the kind of the realistic head sculpts that they've had in recent years with some of the MCU actors. I feel like they got started getting like really better around the Shang-Chi line. That might sound a bit random, but yeah, some of the Shang-Chi figures were really, really close to the actors. But yeah, this is a great sculpt. I think it's one of the best they've ever done. I think at this price point, like, you know, it's awesome. Like, you know, the only thing where you're gonna get better than this is something like Hot Toys or something ridiculous like that. So yeah, really, really great. Really good sculpt. Super close likeness to Hugh Jackman, although this looks like a particularly grumpy Hugh Jackman who's woken up after a heavy night before. But yeah, you know, totally a great sculpt, great sort of sculpt on the hair. You know, just the line of that kind of comic book ridiculous Wolverine hair without it just looking absolutely preposterous. It's great. It's really, really good, and looks so sort of 3D and yeah, just really, really nice. And the paintwork on this is really good too. I mean, you know, I feel like you've really captured the expression in his eyes. Really nice sort of shading around sort of his mustache line. Even the fact that it's like, you know, he's got stronger sort of darker colours on his mutton chops, and much lighter around his sort of mustache line where he's shaving. But you know, it's just really, really great detail. And yeah, I think it's a really good skin tone. It's just a great likeness. Is the head a little big? Maybe it looks a tiny little bit big on his body, or maybe his shoulders look a little bit small. I don't know. I think from some angles though, it looks absolutely fine, and it's a really, really good realistic head sculpt. I think the one again, it's kind of quibbling, but it's just a really hard fine line for them to sort of walk, I guess. Is, you know, it is quite a stoic kind of, I wouldn't say expressionless, but it's not, you know, it's not a really angry face. It's a kind of sort of determined kind of sort of look. And they do this quite a bit, you know, with the MCU Marvel Legends figures. Again, this one is not one of the worst offenders in that I feel like it is like expressive. He looks kind of, yeah, determined, ready for battle. Some of the other faces that we get sometimes, the MCU figures, are just so neutral. So like that last swing Spidey figure, that Tom Holland head sculpt is great. It's a really good likeness, but it's really neutral. Like it's just expressionless, you know. And this, in comparison, is actually quite sort of dynamic and looks right for the character. They definitely could have gone more expressive, you know, it could have been more of an angry snarling face or something like that. And there is that other you know, sort of legacy Wolverine figure, MCU one. Is that based on a figure from the Wolverine? But yeah, that one, he's got more of a sort of attacking kind of snarling face. It would have been nice to have something like this, but I think sometimes when they try and do the more expressive faces, that's where they're more divisive. So there's that second Miss Marvel figure where she's got a really goofy look on her face, and that's bad, you know. And then there's that recent Thor, the Dark World figure, which comes with a second head where he's kind of smirking, and that looks kind of, it's that uncanny valley sort of weird sort of look on its face. So I guess that's the challenge, is when you try and do expressive, it can go wrong and just look really bad. Whereas these more kind of neutral faces, you know, there's less chance of it being divisive and people disliking it, I guess. But overall, I think, yeah, this is one of the best MCU head sculpts. I mean, it's Hugh Jackman Wolverine in action figure form. It's as kind of as good as you're ever going to get for this price point at this size. It's really, really awesome. So yeah, top marks for the unmasked head. And I think this is actually how I'm probably going to display him. As cool as it is to have, you know, the Wolverine mask in live action, I think, you know, this head is just so good, and Hugh Jackman as well. You know, I mean, he's over the last 20 years, 30 years now. You know, he's done so much, I guess, become so synonymous as Wolverine that, yeah, it's nice to have him immortalized in plastic form on the shelf. So yeah, I think I'll probably be displaying him like this. Okay, so here's the figure on a stand. Got him posed with one foot just slightly coming off the floor a little bit, so definitely need a stand for that. But yeah, this is the end of the video. Overall thoughts on this figure: it's a really, really good figure. You know, the likeness is absolutely fantastic. That unmasked head is really, really great. The other head is good too. I just think I'm probably going to display him with this unmasked head because it's just so good. Just one of the best likenesses they've done. You know, I think it's a really, really good figure, probably held back from being great for just a few things. One of them is the posability, it's those shoulders. You know, that you are limited by what you can do in terms of poses with the arms. You can't have the arms sort of coming down much. You know, the kind of the pose I've got him in now is about it in terms of how high his arms can go, which is really limiting. And I think for some people that would be really disappointing. I think some people as well would have liked to see the bare arms on the suit, but again, that's a design thing, you know, and this is how it was in the movie. I think they'll do variations of this as well, so I think we will get one with bare arms, and I think we'll probably get like a shirtless one. I mean, they release like a comic book Wolverine figure like every month, it seems like, so I'm pretty sure that, especially because they have the likeness rights for Hugh Jackman, they're going to produce more figures. from the movie. I'm pretty sure, because this one already seems to have been really, really popular. So I'm pretty sure we'll get other variations of it. And I think some other quibbles people might have are, the yellow plastic as well. I'm pretty sure some people would have liked to see it more painted. I just think it's kind of the nature of toys at this price point now, is that, that they're not going to paint the whole thing. If the majority of it is, they can do it in the plastic, they're going to do it that way. And I do think that the texturing and some of like the details, it raises it above a kind of like a more cheap child's toy. And I think in the right lighting, like it totally looks like a premium figure. And like I say, that likeness is really, really awesome. So I think overall it's a good, if not great figure, but it's great to have a comic book accurate MCU Wolverine and a really, really fantastic likeness in Marvel Legends form. And he's going to look great on the shelf alongside your other MCU characters. It's kind of like, as a teenage Marvel comic fan, like if you'd ever asked me, we would have got stuff like this in movie form and action figure form. I just would have been like, what, So it's just amazing what they're doing now, and it's a really good figure. I do like it a lot, and that likeness is absolutely killer. So thanks a lot for checking out the video. You can check out more of my other Marvel Legends reviews. You can see another video coming up now. I'd love you to check out some of my other videos, and please subscribe to the channel and keep up to date with my other reviews. And thanks a lot for checking out. Have a great day.